Another thing that you mentioned when I heard you talk that was interesting, it influenced me in a different way because it was coming from a different perspective, was when you expend your energy and you expend a lot of it negatively, you're not expending the same amount as when you're expending a lot positively, that you're expending it inefficiently.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I was talking about, I wish this was the one time I wanted to have a slide. I'm not a big fan of slides, but this particular slide would have been helpful, and we call it the energy quadrants. You can actually draw it on right in front of you. You can't draw it on your computer unless you're more adept than I am, but just draw a vertical axis and a horizontal axis so you have 4 quadrants. And at the top of the vertical axis put high, H, and at the bottom put low, and on the horizontal axis on the left side put negative, and on the right side put positive. So those are the 4 energy zones we all experience depending on the circumstances of our life. So the upper right one is high positive. That's where you perform at your best. Those are where all those adjectives you came up with fit. The place where most people, what do you think the lower right is? What would you call that zone, based on what I've said today? Yeah, the renewal zone, the rest zone, the recovery zone. That's the one where most of you are spending almost no time at all. But I hope by what I've said so far, you've started to think, this might be a good place to be spending more time. So now we got to ask ourselves, well, when you're not in the high positive zone, we know you're not in the low positive zone because you all don't spend much time there. Where are you when you're not in the high positive zone? This is what you were asking about. Well, most people are spending most of their non-high positive time in high negative. High negative is the survival zone. We go to the high negative zone when there is a sense of threat or danger. It's the fight or flight experience. And again, I can't be impressed enough by how powerfully physiology runs our lives. When you move into the fight or flight zone, the fight would be anger, frustration, irritation, upset, defensiveness. Flight would be fear, anxiety, retreat, and so on. When you move into that zone, which is what happens when you feel a sense of threat or danger, and we feel those at various times every day, you become a different person. Now, I don't mean that like, you're not as nice. I mean you are controlled by and a reflection of a totally different physiology. You move from parasympathetic arousal and the dominance of the prefrontal cortex to sympathetic arousal and the dominance of the amygdala. You move from reflective to reactive. You move from intentional to automatic. And all kinds of physiological things happen that are great if there is a lion charging at you, because they're designed to get you to move reactively and quickly. If there's a lion charging at you from that side of the room at us, one of the things that Eben and I do not want to do is say, gee, we're in the middle of this discussion. I wonder how long it's going to take for that lion to get here, and how much more time could I talk? You just want to run like hell. That's what fight or flight does. But in reality, there aren't many mountain lions coming at you in your life. There are a lot of metaphorical mountain lions, and your body doesn't make any distinction. So every time you feel a sense of threat or danger, that fight or flight reaction is triggered. It drains your energy. It's an incredibly intense energy drain to be in that state. It's all those hormones, adrenaline and cortisol and noradrenaline, and they burn you down very quick. It's like a gas-guzzling car. That state is antagonizing to other people. Energy is contagious. So what you're feeling, other people will feel. If you are their boss, they'll feel it even more because of your disproportionate power over them. So it's antagonizing other people. It makes it impossible, as somebody said back here, to think in a clear way. You're not allowed to, you're not able to think when your prefrontal cortex shuts down, so you won't think. So you won't say, about that lion, I don't know how long it'll take. The body doesn't want you to think, so you can't think well, you can't relate well, and you can't do anything for very long. It's a really crummy place to spend a lot of time. It's great as an alarm clock. It's great to wake people up. Uh-oh, that's good if you're asleep. But for any sustained period of time, time spent in the high negative zone is not serving you well. It's a poor investment of your time and your energy. And yet we spend tons of time there. It's, to me, such an unbelievably simple but interesting insight to say to yourself, hey, this isn't about whether you're justified in being angry at this situation. This is about whether being angry serves you well. If you practice anger, if you get angry a lot, do you get the anger out? No, you're practicing anger. You get good at what you do a lot. So if you're frustrated and impatient all day, you get good at frustration and impatience. If you are someone who moves your attention as a multitasker from object to object to object, you get good at fractured focus. But you're not good at absorbed focus. Whatever you do gets stronger. Whatever you don't do gets weaker.
So if if you were an entrepreneur and you had a business that was off the ground, growing rapidly, and you wanted to grow it up to become a very successful company, you knew that you had a lot of lessons ahead of you, a lot of challenges. You were just becoming aware of some new ways of thinking, realizing that maybe you had some old ways of thinking that weren't serving you very well, and you wanted to take everything that you had learned and condense it into 1, 2, 3 single action steps that you could take away from this body of knowledge right here. What would you do right now?
Well, first of all, I am that person.
Okay, what are you doing right now?
Right, so I mean,
tell us what you're doing.
I'm the person.
Maybe we can copy it.
I think I'm very similar to most of you. I have a.
What I mean, though, also is though someone that just learned about what you know.
No, I understand, but I meant my life situation is closer to yours than it is to almost any audience I ever talk with. So we're in the same boat. And here's one of the things I've noticed about our boat. It's really hard to create boundaries, finish lines, stopping points, to prioritize in the face of 400 demands that you're aware of. In other words, the problems that most people feel in traditional organizations are worse for us because we're doing it either by ourselves or with a very small group of people. And also, this is a place where your passion actually can be your enemy, because your passion makes you want to push harder and harder and longer. This is why intentionality is so important. You have to be able to stop and ask yourself, I haven't even really talked about this piece, but I'll just say it very briefly, that you have to be able to stop and ask yourself much more often, because you're asking me about the actions, and the actions are the second piece of the puzzle. The first piece of the puzzle is awareness. The first piece of the puzzle is, what are the consequences of the choices I'm currently making? Can I look honestly at them? Because many of us deal with the dysfunctional parts of our lives by basically falling asleep to them, by getting numb, by not noticing them, by rationalizing, by pushing them away. So the first challenge is to push them front and center and ask yourself the question, if I'm not, for example, working out to keep my body strong, and therefore my mind strong and my emotions under control, is that acceptable to me? And is the story I'm telling myself about why I'm not doing it a fact? Is it true? Or is it a story? Is it something I am making up to make it okay? One of the most profound things I've learned is how much of our lives is made up of stories we mistake to be facts. I have a great little exercise I could do about this. If we have time, I'll do it, because it's really fascinating. But so I do want to answer your question. So what are the 2 or 3 things I would do? Well, first of all, I would carve your days into smaller pieces. I would become a sprinter rather than a marathoner. A marathoner looks out at the beginning of a race and says, I can't see the finish line, I know it's way out there, so the one thing I have to do for sure is conserve my energy. I have to be careful about the investment of my energy, because if I try to sprint this first mile, I'll drop like a stone. I won't be able to do the whole race. Well, you are in a marathon. Let's not kid ourselves. I hope you're in a marathon. I hope the finish line in your life is way out there, right? But inside the marathon, you want to operate like a sprinter. And what does that mean? That means you want to build back finish lines into your life in this incremental way that I've been talking about, ideally through these ultradian 90-minute periods. Because you want to operate when you're operating at the highest level of focus and efficiency. And then you want to renew yourself as effectively as you can. And so if you started with, and the first thing I would do is the one I started with, because the one I mentioned a moment ago would be to build the ritual around starting the day with the most important thing or the highest value that you can contribute. If you could do that and nothing more, if you didn't get one other thing out of the time you spent with me, and you could do that even 60% of the time, you would transform your life. It would be an unbelievable experience for you, because you will discover, you already know this intuitively, you will discover that the hour and a half of work you do as the first thing of the day will make you feel productive no matter what else happens the rest of the day. And how often do you have a day where you get to the end of the day and you've done 2,000 things and you can't remember what you did? Right? Oh my God, what did I do today? I just feel like I know I answered 2,000 emails, but what was that about? So that would be number one. Number two would be to really respect and build a ritual around intermittent recovery. Now, as I say these, true to my earlier words, I don't think this is something you should do all of at once. So these are sequential. I'd be much happier to see you do one of these that I'm going to mention, and then once you've got it in ritual form, then add the next one. If I were going to ask myself what the most effective one you could do is, that would give you the biggest bang for the buck, the highest return on your investment, given who you are, I wouldn't say this to everybody, but for you, I would say it's that first one. It's the putting your energy into what really matters first. So the second one would be to build intermittent recovery throughout the day. What would that look like? Well, basically, you could do that in 3 pieces of recovery a day. 1 morning recovery period, lunch away from your desk and actually eating lunch, and 1 afternoon recovery period. And at all 3 of those times, you would eat something. Because the more frequently you eat, the better off you are, for 1,000 reasons. But the most important reason is it gives you sustainable energy. It means that your energy from a glucose perspective stays steady. So one of the forms of recovery that you're getting when you take time off is glucose. So you eat less, but you eat it more often. For energy, this is for performance. There are other reasons to do it too. It's a great way to diet too, but that's not what I'm talking about. And most of you don't need to diet. God bless you. So that would be the second thing I would do. The third thing I would do would be to do an awareness exercise. And here's the exercise. I'd like you to print out the slide, and then I'd like you to put it on your desk or carry it with you when you go. And let's say at the point at which you start your break, your lunch, and your second break, you look at that energy quadrant and you ask yourself, which quadrant am I in? And if you are not in high positive, why aren't you? Because that's a big impetus, that's a big opportunity to begin to learn, where are you actually living? Most of us have no clue. You can spend tons of time in high negative or low negative and not even be aware of it. It's so, what the psychologists call egosyntonic, that you don't even notice. You're used to feeling anxious. You're used to feeling frustrated. You're used to worrying. You're used to feeling self-critical. You're used to being defensive. It doesn't feel unnatural to you, but it's unnatural to performance. So I think those are the 3 things I would do. We're really near the end, right?
No, really.
I know. Let me just, can I do this little story because it'll be fun and it's a great way to... Okay. Okay, so it's like, just lifts me up out of the chair again. So, okay, I'm going to tell you a story, and I want you to imagine that you are the person who is the speaker in this situation. And I want you to answer, when I finish it, 3 questions. Just quickly write down your answers. What does this make me feel? Why does it make me feel that way? And what is the behavior that follows? Okay? What is it I'm feeling? Why am I feeling that way? And what's the behavior that follows? Okay, so I call this story A Man and His Blackberry. Story is this. It's a modern story, first of all. Story is this. The guy who is speaking is a senior executive, 47 years old, in a large firm, very charismatic, an excellent speaker, and he's brought in consistently when they hire new people, promising new people, to give a little pep talk to those people as they begin working at this company, to get them excited about the prospect of working there. He's chosen because he consistently has such a good effect on them. He loves doing it because he's a guy with a fairly big ego, and the positive response he gets makes him feel good. And so on this particular day, he comes in, there's a group here in front of him. It's about, I don't know, let's say the first 3 rows here, right in the middle. It's, 15, 20 people. And he starts into his ordinary rap, and he starts to tell this story. And most of the people are sitting there seemingly pretty attentive, except there's one guy sitting right here who has his BlackBerry out, and he is writing away on it. And in addition to writing away, and by the way, the guy who is walking across here, remember he has a fairly big ego, he keeps noticing this guy because he is in the first damn row. And this guy is, right, doing it consistently, and he is trying not to respond. But then he notices that in addition, the guy has a little earpiece. And he's playing with the earpiece as he's talking. And then the 3rd or 4th time he looks at him, he notices that he's mouthing words. So here he is, he's just about to do this, and now I guess get you to answer the 3 questions. You're him. What does this make you feel? Why does it make you feel this way? And what do you do? All right, I know not all of you have got it yet, but let me just have a couple of volunteers, if you could. Those of you who have a full-throated voice, I'd like to hear the 3 responses.
How many are you going to get?
About 40.
Really?
No.
No, I'm serious. 2 or 3? Run over to the mic real quick.
2 or
Anyone
3.
Close to the edge there? I'm serious. Jump up, run right over to the mic. A couple right over here, if you got a response.
Let's start over here. What's your name?
Heather DeWeese.
Hi, Heather.
Okay, so the first question is, how am I feeling? I'm feeling disrespected. Why do I feel that way? I feel like I'm not being heard. And then my behavior, if I was on a stage and you did that scenario, I'd probably just stop talking, stare at him, and just ask him to please put down the BlackBerry. Okay,
good. One more question for you, Heather. You do that in order to what?
I thought you'd ask that. That was a good point. I do that in order for him to listen to me. However, I don't really know if he might be listening to me. I don't know that.
Okay. No, let's go over here.
Hi, Dan Buglio. Aggravated, insulted, distracted, certainly, because
Right.
it keeps on drawing your attention. Why? Because I'd feel insulted because you're not paying attention. The behavior would be to ask that person to stop, because it is actually influencing your ability to deliver the message to the people who actually care.
Great.
Which is, I think, why Evan said to the computer folks, stop doing that loop, like the OCD loop.
Okay, Joe Polish. First off, fabulous stuff. Really, really fabulous.
Thank you.
I actually get in this situation occasionally, almost all the time when I speak. But what does it make me feel? Usually distracted, ignored. I also have an ego. I really touch on that. So what does it make me feel? I've something that I want the person to hear, and deep down inside, I think I crave and desire the attention. I mean, it's part of the reason that, I put myself out there as a public figure, sort of. And so, I want to be heard. and what is the behavior that follows. For me, usually I just ignore it and do my best to not place improper energy and attention on something like that that doesn't matter.
Great. Is there one more? Oh, two more.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm Sofia Stavropoulou. I wouldn't feel insulted. I wouldn't take it personally. I would feel distracted. That would be my problem. He would make me lose my focus on delivering the message. I wouldn't take it personally because this person is among my audience. I feel honored for that, but I would ask him kindly to leave the room or stop doing what he's doing because he creates a problem regarding the rest of the audience.
Got it. Good. One more, and then we're done.
Hi, my name is Sam Robbins. Actually, other than frustration, my thing was I was curious. I mean, that might be a weird emotion, but I was thinking, why?
No, that's interesting. That's interesting. That's the most interesting, curious response we've had yet. So, because you're curious, let me tell you a little bit more about the story. The speaker actually eventually can't stand it and goes over and grabs the BlackBerry from this young man right here, picks it up and takes it and holds it up as an example of what the problem is with young people in America today. And the young person in America says, well, I'd like you to look at what's on that BlackBerry. And he does. And what do you think is on that BlackBerry? Verbatim notes of every single thing that he said. Now, the second piece of information about this gentleman is that he was a Iraq veteran. And that earpiece in his ear is a hearing aid, which he only recently got. He was in Iraq, and he was in an IED went off, a bomb went off with his battalion, killed every single person in his battalion but him. He was standing behind a tank, and he had leaned down to tie his combat boot, and was saved by that, but he lost his hearing in the explosion. The reason he was playing with it is he can't get the damn thing to work. And the reason he was mouthing words is that he was trying to read the lips of the speaker to whom he was being so attentive. Does this make you feel any different? So, but you had the facts already, didn't you? How is it that this changed? What is it? What went wrong here? What is the lesson here? What's the moral of this story? Yeah, I'd like a little bit more, yeah.
I think it's a matter of mental models. We had another mental model at the beginning because we had different data to process, and depending on what is our mental model is a certain frame of thinking.
There's no question. And here's the mental model that you have. The mental model you have is that we are all predisposed to be unbelievably attentive to slights, to be unbelievably focused on our own value. This is the elephant in the room we all live with every day. What we're really struggling with is, are we valued? And as soon as we get a little bit of evidence that perhaps we're not, we move into high negative mode. We move into fight or flight. And the issue here is that we hear, this is the mental model, we hear what happened as a fact, but here's what's really happening. There are a set of facts. Can you tell me what the facts were in this situation? You can tell me because you had the curiosity. What were the facts? Just the facts, ma'am. I know you're not a ma'am, but it seemed like a phrase.
The facts as far as how he reacted?
No, what are the facts in this situation? What is incontrovertibly true in this situation that no one could dispute?
That he was moving his mouth.
He was moving his mouth. What else?
He was attentive.
He was active. I heard something back there. Right, he was doing something on his BlackBerry. And what else? He was fiddling with his ear. Those are the facts. But we as human beings are meaning-making animals, and facts are never sufficient for us. We must tell stories to make sense of the facts. The problem is we tell stories and then we mistake them for the facts. We tell those stories so fast that we think that what we've told ourselves is true. To begin to separate them, you need to do what you just said. the most appropriate response would be curiosity. You don't know. You think you know. If you're not triggered by it, if you're simply curious as you were, then you don't know. Tell me, hey, I'm interested. Here's the way I have found, who do you think the person in that story who grabbed the BlackBerry might have been? Me. Now, it was an incredibly humiliating experience, I assure you. But it gave me this story, so I feel good about it. Thank you very much.
And thank you for being here with us. Thanks, Tony.
Appreciate it.
Much appreciated. Thank you. Find something that stood out, something important, something that you're going to take action on, and write a one-line action plan. Rephrase it. Write it in a way that is meaningful to you right now in this moment, something you're going to do as a result. One thing. Some people have asked me, personally, what do you do? What are your personal rituals? What do you do? And I don't like to share this stuff necessarily, but here are a couple of things that have really worked for me. Last year and a half, religiously trying to get 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night. It's been huge. It's been really huge. When I first wake up in the morning, my routine, wake up, I try to drink a ½ liter of water, very first thing. Then I do my morning ritual, brush my teeth. I use my Sonicare toothbrush. My dentist told me a few years ago to do the 2-minute cycle on the bottom and the 2-minute cycle on the top. So I do that, and then I floss, and then I scrape my tongue with one of those big torture devices, and then I mouthwash. Well, do you scrape your tongue?
I like to tell people about it.
You don't? You don't scrape your tongue?
No, I do.
You do scrape your tongue? Oh, you wanted us to keep it secret from the world, huh? You want to share my tongue scraper? Okay. And then I exercise for about, actually I have a really weird ritual that I do. I steam my head. What I do is I heat up about a ½ liter of water, pour it in a bowl, put some different like peppermint drops and eucalyptus, throw a towel over my head and just inhale steam. It really works for me, clears me out, just gets me rocking and rolling. Do about 20 minutes of exercise, take a bath or a shower. One of the things that I try to do, if I can, I'm a bath guy, if you couldn't tell from my attire. And one of the things that I try to do when I bathe is consciously, once a day, while I'm completely conscious, and this is all I'm doing, is I try to relax every single muscle in my body simultaneously, once a day, in a conscious way. Finally, I get a lot of benefit from that. Then I eat my first meal. My routine right now is I try to eat 400 to 500 calorie meals a day, every 3 hours. And at the 90-minute points in between, it's a ½ liter of water with fresh lemon in it. Huge difference it has made in my life. I just can't even describe it. And I try to eat food that is as close to in its raw state as possible. Now, maybe only 50% of the food that I eat actually is there, but try to eat as much raw, organic, balanced meals, not a lot of weirdness. If it's processed and white, I try to stay away from it completely, meaning processed white flour, sugar, rice, any of that kind of stuff, completely. And I've noticed now that I've gotten off of it that it's like crack. If I have some, for 2 or 3 solid days after that, my mind is thinking, I gotta find something to eat. It's like it triggers it. And having the holistic nutritionist girlfriend has been a part of the process, educating me on this. So anyway, that's what I do, and I recommend it. I go a little further, and I've especially gotten into meditation and yoga over the last couple of years. I can't recommend it highly enough. That might be a little out there for you, but breathing exercises, those kind of things, changed the quality of my life dramatically.